Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and the rest. We are live this Saturday as per usual. Apparently, I've been liking streaming Saturdays, and lately I have been liking researching about cults in general and about the Jehovah's Witness religion's history because I know the main things, the main bits about the Jehovah's Witness history. Like it started with Russell, then with Rutherford, then with Knorr, and then the governing body kicked in, and then like I know the general idea of the history behind the Jehovah's Witness religion, but I'm not an expert on the history of the religion. So I thought, why not why not become an expert by watching an old documentary, almost 15 years old documentary that the Jehovah's Witnesses put out in their website. Let me put it in. And thank you so much for joining. Thank you. Hi, Devin. Hello, Deanna. Hello, Bearwoody. Hello to everybody who was joining me. I hope we have a fun time. I was thinking of maybe doing my nails in the stream, but I think I'm just gonna uh, role as usual. Now, this is the Jehovah's Witness Faith in Action Part 1 documentary. We'll be watching Part 2 next weekend. Like, it's next Saturday, if God, if Jehovah forbids. And I think it's going to be an interesting look because this was made on 2010. 2010 was right at the cusp of changing things. I don't know if you guys remember, but the religion before the 2010s was very different than the modern Jehovah's Witnesses. The modern Jehovah's Witnesses is a fairly new uh, religion that it didn't really exist before, at least not in this way that it exists, with so much emphasis on the governing body and so little emphasis on the Bible scholarliness of it all. Before being a Jehovah's Witness, when I was a Jehovah's Witness in the 90s and 2000s, being a Jehovah's Witness was about learning the Bible and knowing the Bible and being able to preach the Bible to people door to door with the publications. That was like the kick about being the way that you were a Jehovah's Witness. But now it's less about knowing stuff and more about feeling. How does stuff make you feel? So, and more about the governing body as well. So this documentary was right at the cusp, like right when the governing body started to become more and more, um, uh, I don't know, they started to get more protagonism in the religion. I would say we're gonna compare it as well to the documentary that we watched. I'll keep in mind the documentary that we watched a couple of weeks ago in a live stream that was from 1990-ish, I think. So this was 20 years later. We'll see how different the organization portrays itself and what they have to say about their religion. I think that is more than enough intro. So let's watch it. As always, you can watch it, obviously you can watch it on jw.org. I'm streaming it from here, but I already have it downloaded just in case. jw.org. You know what, do I have it downloaded? I'm just gonna download it just real fast because sometimes I think I have it. I have a backup, but I don't know. I'm always paranoid when I'm doing shenanigans with the Jehovah's Witness religion. So yeah, let's see the Jehovah's Witness religion and their history according to them. And if you guys can tell something that is odd or that is not true or whatever, just call it out. Like, remember to call it out. I'm pretty sure that they won't say that they used to sell books, even though that was like their main thing for a long time. It was selling books. I don't think they're gonna be like, oh, we used to sell books and that's how we made money. I would doubt it. But yeah, let's see what this documentary is about. Also, it is in
For more than 100
it is in 480p. It is the highest quality, even though this was made in 2010. Remember, this was made in 2010, and the best quality is 480p. So let's just try to endure it. And you can, even though it's old, you can tell that Samuel Hurt has always been old.
years, Jehovah's Witnesses have proclaimed the Bible's message that God's kingdom will rid the world of wickedness. restore the earth to paradise, and
Sorry, I just have to say, like, look how tiny this is. Full screen, right? This is how large like the bezels are. This is how tiny this documentary is, and it still looks like shit. Like it's tiny and it still looks like shit. This is insane.
and raise mankind to perfection. Sharing this truth, however, has often resulted in persecution from powerful institutions. But why has such a positive message elicited such a negative reaction? And how have we overcome that opposition to get to where we are today?
Remember, the positive message that he's talking about is that everyone is going to be destroyed by Jehovah's Witnesses, as they told in the annual meeting very clearly. It's only good news to Jehovah's Witnesses. So Samuel Hurd is like, why is it that other people just don't like the fact that we tell them that they're going to be destroyed soon because if they don't join Jehovah's Witnesses? Like, what? It's a message of love. No, it's not. It's only a message of love and hope for Jehovah's Witnesses, as they've clearly told in this last annual meeting.
This is the story of a people intent on living in the light of Bible truth, no matter what hostility they may face. As you watch, note the determination of Jehovah's modern-day servants to study diligently, preach zealously, and keep serving God faithfully. This video is more than just history. This is your story. It's a reminder that Jehovah God is in full control and that this is His organization. It is a story that begins over 6,000 years ago. The story of Jehovah's Witnesses.
Pretty mid intro. I mean, I think my intro was better.
In the Bible, light is associated with truth, whereas darkness is associated with falsehood.
Source? What? How can you say, oh, in the Bible, dark is associated with falsehood, light is associated with truth? Trust us. We're not gonna back that up with any information whatsoever. Like, if you knew your Bible, you knew that this is true.
When God completed His creative works, there was no spiritual darkness. But after Adam and Eve sinned, human society came under the control of Satan. Shunning the light would become the foremost goal of wicked people. Anyone seeking truth in such a world would be opposed. The light of truth shone brightly when Jesus Christ walked the earth. All who truly followed Jesus reflected the light He radiated.
This whole thing about light is like, where are you basing this on? Is this just because the light gets brighter and, you know, you had to like come up with a way to make that sound biblical? Because I don't think, like, I could be wrong. Maybe you can call me out in the chat, but I don't think the Bible ever refers to Jesus as like the giver of light and like conqueror of darkness, or, you know, in that kind of like very specific analogy. I don't think Jesus ever said that, oh, he came into, I think maybe there's one time that you can say that he came in to bring light into the world, I think. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't really.
But Jesus foretold that after the death of His apostles, there would be a falling away from pure worship.
Oh, no, guys, are you kidding? Are you seeing this? Are you seeing this? This wasn't there like a couple of weeks ago. You can play it in like faster speed now. Like, I have always called out Jehovah's Witnesses because they didn't have this. Like, I think I even called it out on stream like a month ago or something, that they could have like faster speed, but they don't have it, and they make you endure it at regular speed. So no, let's take advantage of it. Let's put it a little bit faster, because Jehovah's Witnesses are slow as fuck. This is insane. I hadn't seen this. hold on. I need to. Is this? I'm gonna play this, and then I'm gonna look while this plays to see if this is a thing in like every other video, because I have never seen this before.
That apostasy would be so extensive that genuine disciples would practically disappear until the conclusion of the system of things. At the same time, a counterfeit form of Christianity would flourish.
Yes, look at this. This is the latest video that they have in jw.org. Speed. You can put whatever speed you want now. Guys, are Jehovah's Witnesses evolving? I don't understand. This is insane. I had never seen this. Is insane. I thought that the Jehovah's Witnesses would never put this, but I feel like it's almost a meeting defeat. Like, yeah, just put it at like double the speed. So, yeah, we're gonna put it like 1.2x because I don't want to like double up necessarily. But we'll see. We'll adjust it as we see fit.
And so it happened.
Exactly. And this stream is made possible by all of your donations. I mean, I'm just saying.
So-called Christian churches deviated from Christ's teachings. The result was the abuse of power and untold suffering. This was a period of deep darkness.
You know,
in
it's
the
pretty
centuries
telling.
after the establishment of the Christian
Pretty telling
congregation,
that.
we see how
Shut up, Jeffrey Jackson. I know that you're about to be the first governing body member to show up, but shut up. It's pretty telling that they have to, like, in order for their religion to seem compelling, they can't. I'm rolling a joint, by the way. This is what I'm doing, like, over here. But in order for their doctrine to be somewhat compelling, they have to bring out all of the shit from other religions. And I've seen this while talking to Jehovah's Witnesses, because sometimes Jehovah's Witnesses come into my channel and they're like, oh, you know, like, you talk about Jehovah's Witnesses, but you don't talk about how other religions believe in a hellfire, in eternal doomsday. Why are you not talking about that? Well, because why do you need me to talk about other religions when I'm talking about Jehovah's Witnesses? I feel like they love comparing themselves to others because they know that their religion is so bad and so cultish that the only way that it will look appealing is if they compare it to the Catholic religion in the Dark Ages, which is what they have. That's literally how they opened this thing. Like, we haven't even learned about Jehovah's Witnesses, and they're like, well, before we learn about Jehovah's Witnesses, let me just remind you about the darkest times of the Catholic Church. Jesus, come on.
many of those who were taking the lead in the Christian church or the Christian congregation started to likewise love worldly wisdom. These ideas that came from Plato and other of the Greek philosophers started to infiltrate the so-called Christian thinking.
And so the apostates wished to blend a Christian teaching and Christian tradition with pagan religious ideas. And the idea was to make these things more acceptable to other pagans so that pagans could be drawn into the Christian religion.
As the
You see that? Jeffrey Jackson and David Splain. This is significant because this would have been one of the very first few times, if not the first time, that a Jehovah's Witness would actually see and learn directly from a governing body member. This was unprecedented all the way up to the times of Rutherford. Like, they had stopped doing this. They since Rutherford, like, they stopped since when Rutherford, like, passed away and got succeeded by Nathan Knorr. The cult of personality became far less obvious, and it became more about the organization itself and about the company of the organization of the Jehovah's Witness than about the leader, like the guy in charge. And we see in this documentary, I think this is one of the very first times where we start seeing the governing body gain this this role of no, we are the leaders, and we're gonna teach people, even if we have to do it through video. It's better that we teach people directly. This is the very first time, or one of the very first few times, that we will see this. And I think that's why I wanted to watch this, because this marks departure from the Jehovah's Witness religion. Like, this is exactly, like, this is right at the middle from being like this Jehovah's Witness religion from the 90s and being modern Jehovah's Witnesses. This is right at the conjuncture, right at this bit, like at this bit. Just keep.
Centuries passed, apostate religious leaders obscured the light even further by keeping the Bible in Latin, a language no longer understood by most people. Yet, at certain points during this darkness, there were still individuals who felt keenly the need to read and understand God's Word. For example, in the 1100s, a French merchant known as Vaudreuil commissioned a translation of Bible books into the language of the common people. 2 centuries later, Catholic priest John Wycliffe wrote powerfully against unbiblical practices of the Church. By 1382, Wycliffe's team released the first translation of the Bible into English. His students, known as Lollards, preached the Bible's message to anyone who would listen.
This was right before the Gray Bible. Like, I think the Gray Bibles, I could be mistaken, but I think the Gray Bibles came in 2012 or 2013, and this came out in 2010. So yeah, this is right at the edge, right in the middle. Also, this is 20% faster than normal. I don't think you can tell that this is 20% faster than normal. Like, usually you can tell. You can't tell here. I correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this pacing and the speed feels so natural.
By 1495, the invention of movable type made it possible to print all or part of the Bible in 12 languages. Soon, people were reading it for themselves. And some who did began to discern that the Church had gone off course. In the 1500s, such men as Huldrych Zwingli, Martin Luther, and John Calvin preached the need to return to the original principles of Christianity. These men and others tried to expose hypocritical practices and uphold Bible teachings.
You know, I remember like these kind of people that tried their best to and even died sometimes for the Bible. Some of them, Jehovah's Witnesses, are like, oh, maybe they were proto Jehovah's Witnesses. Like they kind of like respect them because they suffered and died for the Bible and stuff. And I think this is the last time that they will portray other outsiders like this. I don't think I've been consuming a lot of modern Jehovah's Witness propaganda. And I forgot that Jehovah's Witnesses were considered like some Christians like as almost proto Jehovah's Witnesses, and they consider like they put them in a positive light. So yeah, we are seeing one of the many changes because I don't think they will ever mention this again. It's not like they mentioned this in their current propaganda. So yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Even though this put them at odds with powerful religious authorities.
You can see ones that were willing to stand out as being different, even though they didn't have a full knowledge of the truth.
Also, that's Jeffrey Jackson pre-ARC as well. Like this is old.
But standing out led to persecution. And persecution often led to compromise, especially when it came to preaching. Nevertheless, in many lands, the 1600s and 1700s were marked by a strong upsurge in Bible study. In England, many learned men refuted the Trinity doctrine as unscriptural. Among them, scientist Sir Isaac Newton, poet John Milton, and chemist Joseph Priestley. Besides rejecting the Trinity doctrine, Priestley declared that the teaching of the inherent immortality of the...
Yeah, they really went all in with the sound effects for the death and destruction. Like they're like, oh, come on, we can't show blood, but I mean, we have to put on some sound effects for the children that are gonna watch this.
Soul was false. He held that the first century Christians had the true faith, and that any change to that pattern of belief was a corruption. His opinions sparked a heated controversy, both in the church and in the government. In 1791, a mob destroyed Priestley's house and laboratory. The pressure mounted for 3 more years until he fled to the United States. He was followed by many others who held his views, among them Henry Grew. By 1807, at age 25, Grew was
Yeah,
invited
this is a cigarette. This is a cigarette with nicotine. This is not a blunt. Also, I forgot to to say this. I'm sorry about the audio. If the audio is a little bit bad, I know that it's probably not as good as usual. That's because this microphone over here. I thought the only issue that I had was just the USB cable, because it was giving me a lot of feedback. But no, apparently it's just broken, and it's just I need to buy another one because I have no way of fixing this. So I'm saving up for a new microphone, and I'm just using this microphone, this terrible microphone, because it's like the best microphone I have currently. So sorry about the audio. I'll try my best to. This is why I wanted to do a live stream as well, because I don't have to talk as much. We can just react, and I hope the audio is just like more bearable this way.
to serve as pastor of the Baptist Church in Hartford, Connecticut.
And he had a very interesting philosophy on the study of the Bible. Let Scripture interpret Scripture. Drew's point was that the Bible was its own best interpreter. Now, as he studied the Bible, he began to realize that the doctrine of the Trinity was false. Well, you couldn't be a Baptist minister and not believe in the Trinity.
After 4 years, Grew and several others withdrew from the church. In later years, Grew published writings in which he used the Bible to refute the Trinity, hellfire, and the inherent immortality of the soul.
Word.
And Grew argued that immortality, according to the Bible, is a gift that God bestows on the faithful. It is not a gift that he bestows on the wicked. So how could the wicked have an immortal soul?
Grew's pamphlet would have far-reaching effects.
This is where like the weird Jehovah's Witness logic starts. Jehovah's Witness whole theology is based on like bad logic, which is why it's like pretty boring. So this is, I feel, where the bad logic starts.
His work caught the attention of Methodist minister George Storrs. Intrigued, Storrs spent the next 3 years studying the matter.
The scriptures are clear on this point.
Yet his
that the
findings
soul
met with
is
little interest by
not
his fellow
immortal.
ministers.
In Ezekiel 18:4, the soul that sinneth, it shall die.
And finally, by 1840, his conscience troubled him so much over the difference between what the Bible was teaching and what he was being obliged to teach as a Methodist Episcopal minister, that he resigned his position.
In 1842, Storrs began publishing a monthly magazine entitled Bible Examiner. Before long, he met Henry Grew in person. The two became close friends and collaborated in debates against proponents of the immortal soul doctrine.
Yes, in that scripture, Ezekiel 18:4.
You know, I don't know if it's because the fake beards are not as prominent, or because the clothes are far better done than biblical dramas. But I feel like, I don't know, like I buy this a little bit more than modern dramas. Like, look at it. Like, you can still see the acting. Like, oh yes, and Ezekiel also, I have, like, come on, like it's still kind of ridiculous. But I can buy this more than modern dramas, which also brings me back to what we've been discovering with these live streams that I've been doing about old Jehovah's Witness videos. All Jehovah's Witnesses videos were better than modern Jehovah's Witnesses videos. They feel far more polished, and this is no exception. This feels like a very slow but polished documentary, like well-produced documentary about the history of the religion. Obviously, it's kind of boring and it's kind of slow, but it feels polished. It in ways that modern like JW broadcasting and stuff like that just doesn't feel like that. I feel like that's the biggest thing that the Jehovah's Witnesses have lost. They have lost this sense of like dignity around their religion, where it was a solemn kind of thing, and everything had to be polished and perfect. And now it's more about feeling, and there's like the always rejoice song, always rejoice. It's just more casual, and I feel, I don't know, like that was one of the appeals of the Jehovah's Witness religion. You got to you get to play as a fancy person for a little bit, like as a fancy scholar. It's almost.
States against proponents of the immortal soul doctrine.
Yes, in that scripture.
Yeah, it looks like
Ezekiel
PBS, like a PBS documentary, like a boring.
George Storrs believed that in order for everyone living during the time of Christ's return to have an opportunity for salvation, a global preaching campaign was needed. He had no idea how such a thing could be accomplished, but in faith he wrote,
Yet too many, if they cannot see just how a thing is to be done, reject it, as if it were impossible for God.
Storrs died in 1879 at his home in Brooklyn, New York, in the very neighborhood that would become the focal point of the worldwide preaching work he had so eagerly anticipated. The stage was now set for light to emerge from darkness.
I wonder if they are going to be like anointed people, because these people did more for the truth than the governing body are doing right
It was
now.
in 1845 that Joseph and Annalisa Russell emigrated from Ireland to Pennsylvania, USA. They would have 5 children, among them Charles Taze. But times were hard. His brother Thomas died at age 5. Before Charles turned 9, 2 more of his siblings died. Then his mother died. That same year, 1861, the United States became embroiled in a civil war that would send 618,000 to their graves. Thousands perished on battlefields not far from where the Russells lived and worked.
And they would be able to see firsthand the havoc that war wreaks on people, the suffering, the death.
Young Charles Russell thought often about what happens to the dead. Most religions held that God created man immortal, and that he made a fiery hell in which to torment people forever, except those predestined for salvation. Russell's feelings about such teachings came through in what he wrote.
A God that would use his power to create human beings whom he foreknew and predestinated should be eternally tormented could be neither wise, just, nor loving. His standard would be
It
lower
really shows a handsome guy to portray Charles Taze Russell, right? I feel like they didn't have to make him this handsome. Anyway, wasn't he supposed to be like 16 or something at this
than
point?
that of many men.
He could never
I guess you can say this is a 16-year-old, because people back then, like even teenagers, they look like they're in their 40s, you know?
reconcile the teaching of eternal torment with the description of the Bible of a loving God.
Oh my God, I absolutely love this. I absolutely love this thing, because this is what Jehovah's Witnesses love to teach. They love to be like, oh no, we can never think that a loving God would torture people in hellfire forever. That is horrible. That's not a loving God. He would only kill most of the population forever in the biggest genocide of the world. That's what a loving God does. Like, not hellfire. That's a little bit too much. That's not loving. Genocide, very loving though, extremely loving.
As he examined the creeds of the great churches, when he saw that they taught that the wicked are tormented eternally, why, he just could not accept that.
The whole culture, religious culture at that time, was a matter of believing that God was a God of vengeance.
And Russell knew that the Bible said, as it does at 1 John 4:8, God is love. How could a God of love do this? And so
I don't get it. Who's this old fuck now? Like, we've never seen him before or after. He just says Bethel. Like, look at this. Like everyone, like the governing body members are like it have like, oh, Jeffrey Jackson, governing body member in Brooklyn Bethel. He just has John Gishwick, Brooklyn Bethel. That's all you need. Like, why would you need his qualifications to know that he's qualified to speak on this? He's at Bethel. That's all you need to know.
1 John 4:8, God is love. How could a God of love do this? And so his faith wavered.
We'll have another shipment soon.
He felt he could do the most good for people through business and philanthropy.
Organizing the inventory.
As a preteen, he became his father's partner in a growing chain of clothing stores. Charles Russell.
Okay, guys. Let's just make bets right now. Take bets right now in the chat. Just let me know with a yes or no. Will they admit that Russell's whole thing was that he sold books and that was like his business? Like he moved, because they're at the cusp of saying this. So will they admit that this was at the cusp of Russell realizing, oh no, what I need to do is sell books. So I'm going to create a company so I can sell books. Say yes or no in the chat, because I think they're not going to do it. I think it's a no.
Russell enlarged the business,
Would that be all for you, Mel?
eventually operating a number of stores by himself.
Here's your change. Thank you for coming.
By age 25, he possessed over $300,000, the equivalent of $7 million today.
You got a lot of no's.
Yet his search for truth continued. In 1869, something happened that would help reestablish his faith.
Seemingly by accident one evening, I dropped into a dusty, dingy hall to see if the handful who met there had anything more sensible to offer than the creeds of the great churches.
Let us take note of the words of our Lord and Savior, Jesus himself, to the apostles. In the
There, for the first time, I heard something of the views of Second Adventists from the preacher Mr. Jonas Wendell.
And he said unto them,
Though his scripture exposition was not entirely clear, it was sufficient, under God, to reestablish my wavering faith in the divine inspiration of the Bible.
Now remember,
This is kind of significant because they are admitting that Charles Taze Russell went to the Seventh-day Adventists first. And they were like, yeah, they have a lot of things right. So I'm just going to steal most of this. But, you know, some things they have wrong, which is what I'll just fix. I just don't agree with with some things. But yeah, they have a lot of things right, which is why a lot of the theology, the Jehovah's Witness theology, is based around Seventh-day Adventist theology, like the way that they interpret certain revelation prophecies or visions, or the interpretation of the giant statue. I can't remember the name. The giant statue on Daniel. Having multiple, like signifying multiple different kingdoms and all that stuff. That's a Seventh-day Adventist thing. Seventh-day Adventists did it first. It's not a Jehovah's Witness thing. It's what Charles Taze Russell thought the Seventh-day Adventists got right. So you can see through the lines and see how Jehovah's Witnesses doctrine is just knockoff doctrine from the Seventh-day Adventists. They always try to tell you, oh, we are very unique. Our doctrine is the best doctrine. It's not. It's just slightly recycled Seventh-day Adventist doctrine with like 100 years of history.
point, Russell,
Of evolution or de-evolution, because it's not like Jehovah's Witnesses have become better Bible scholars with the time.
is not an atheist, but he's just discouraged. He doesn't feel that truth can be found anywhere. And that sermon by a second Adventist was enough to get him to get his well-worn Bible off the shelf and to start digging again.
As we've already seen, the word Trinity doesn't appear anywhere in the Bible.
He was 16, by the way. Like, I don't think they're gonna tell you this. He was 16 when he went to his first meeting at 18. When he went to his first meeting in 1870, he was 18 years old over here. So an 18-year-old goes to a church and is like, No, no, no. You got it wrong. I got it right. I'm going to make a religion out of this.
Bible.
Fired with enthusiasm, Charles, his father Joseph, and a few acquaintances in Pittsburgh and Allegheny formed a class for Bible study.
They would take a subject, they would get a Bible concordance, they would look up every single scripture that had a bearing on the subject, and then they would write down their conclusions. And then they would say, all right, this is what the Bible teaches. We are going to believe that.
Yes, and God's word is clear.
After 5 years of study, the religious thinking of these men had undergone remarkable change.
Christ's return will mean great blessings.
Their study
for
of the
obedient
Bible
mankind.
led them to major conclusions that challenged the prevailing religious views of the day. For example, while most religions taught that man has a soul, Russell and his associates concluded that man is a soul, and that the soul can die. And whereas Christendom's churches teach that the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost are one person, these students held that Jehovah is one God, and not part of a trinity. In
Also,
addition,
while they say all of this like bullshit, like, oh, they realized that the Trinity, the word Trinity isn't in the Bible, so they decided to replace it with governing body instead. While they talk about this, let me just share a few tips from I'm not very wealthy. I'm not a very wealthy person, so whenever I want to get like high and tipsy, I have a very good solution to do it. This is my breakfast over here. This is over here. I'm gonna have it probably while on stream because I'm kind of hungry. But since I haven't had breakfast, that means that I can have like a few beers, like a couple of beers, and it's gonna hit like a full 6-pack. So just wait, skip breakfast because you probably don't have money to buy it anyway, and then drink a couple of beers so you can drink it at an somewhat appropriate time, and then you just need 2 beers. It's like a 6-pack. Works every time. Let's play it.
while some churches were teaching that Christ would return in the flesh and that the earth would be destroyed, this small group came to understand that Christ would return invisibly, in the Spirit, with the purpose of blessing obedient mankind.
So it wasn't just philosophizing, just talking about what if or perhaps this way, but they were focused on trying to actually find the truth. And the fact that they decided to write down those conclusions showed that they had a belief that there is some truth to be found.
We only see light when it's Jehovah's time to reveal light. And so this was the beginning of Jehovah's time to lead his people out of darkness into the wonderful light.
Charles Russell never professed to be divinely inspired. He acknowledged the assistance he had received from Joe.
This is a lie. He allowed himself to be. He allowed people to call him a prophet. If prophets aren't divinely inspired, then like, what the fuck are they?
Jonas Wendell, from George Storrs, and from someone who also brought about one of his greatest tests of faith, Nelson Barber, publisher of the journal Herald of the Morning. On a business trip, Russell received a copy of the Herald. Its contents were a surprise. Like Russell, Barber held that Christ's return would be invisible. Russell arranged a meeting with Barber. Soon, Russell's Bible study group of about 30 merged with Barber's larger group. Russell contributed funds to print Herald of the Morning.
The business is an excellent one.
By this time, Russell began to sell out his business interests in order to preach full-time.
Yes, and all that is needed for me to leave this business behind and start a new life. There you are.
Oh my god. Oh my god. I did a Lloyd. I did a Lloyd. I'm so sorry. I'm not even gonna tell you what I was saying. I'm just gonna keep playing because I'm so embarrassed.
Thank you. And I wish you well on your new endeavors.
He was convinced that the presence of the Lord is of utmost importance.
The presence of Christ is not compared to the flood, but to the days of Noah.
At the age of 25, he went from city to city to speak at various public gatherings.
Guys, there's people in the chat saying that I got muted because I'm high. I got muted because I'm an idiot. Okay, I'm high because I'm high. Like they're independent. Like I would have done that mistake while completely sober. I'm just an idiot. Okay, I'm just not, and nothing to do with drugs or alcohol. Please don't let that let that put you off from drugs or alcohol. Like don't let that do that to you. That's horrible.
On the streets and to Protestant churches and their clergy.
He didn't want to form another church. There were already enough denominations in his mind. There he presented these main Bible teachings to them and urged them to study the matter and then to use their pulpits to preach that message. But of course, they laughed and made fun of him and went their way. And then that's why Russell decided, well, somebody had to preach these things, so he would use his time and energies to do it.
You would assume that being well off, he could have supported someone else. He could have taken the easy way out and perhaps funded someone else to do the work. He allowed his...
Again, like, Russell was like, it was in his 20s, early 20s, and he goes to the church, and he goes, that's good advice. It's good advice. It's good advice. He goes to the church, and he's like, you got it all wrong. All you have to do is to change all of your theology so it fits what I like to do. Like, you know, your Seventh-day Adventist thing, you got it mostly right, but there's shit you got wrong. So, you know, change this because I figured it out. And then they obviously laugh at him, and they're like, well, he's like, well, I need to make the Jehovah's Witness religion then, which he never called the Jehovah's Witness religion.
His whole life to center around it. By selling his business and getting involved personally with it, you can see the passion, the love that he had for the truth.
Here's the mail, Mr. Russell.
Thank you.
After 2 years of association with Nelson Barber, a dispute arose that would test the loyalty of each member of the Bible study group. Barber had written an article for the Herald spurning the teaching that Christ's death could provide a ransom for sinners. Though professing to believe in the
It's just imagine you have so little going on, like, because, oh my God, this is what the lack of internet does to you, because they didn't have the internet back then. So he's like, this church is wrong in some things, so I'm going to publish an article on the news about it. What? Dude, just this is why we don't get cults now. This is why we don't get cults now, because now people can get into Lord of the Rings, people can get into One Piece, people can nerd out about other things that are more socially acceptable than the Bible. It's just, I wanted to, like, tell you, like, all of the issues, and like when they're glorifying something in their history or whatever. But so far they've been pretty accurate, more accurate than I would expect. And even being accurate, it's just kind of ridiculous when you think about it. Like, just a dude had a disagreement with the Seventh-day Adventists, and he's like, "Hey, you should change some things." And then he was so mad about it that he published some stuff on the papers. And then he's like, "I'm gonna make my own church with Seventh-day Adventists with a twist. It's gonna be called the Bible Students." It's just, I don't know. It's just. Isn't it kind of ridiculous? It's a little bit ridiculous, right? It's just a little bit ridiculous. Come on, like, I feel that's why that's why we don't see a lot of religions being started nowadays, because you have to be, like, kind of ridiculous, and people will call you out on the internet, like, very early on. You can't be this ridiculous this much, like, this public. It's just, you can't do it.
ransom. Barber wrote that the notion that Christ's death paid for mankind's sins was unscriptural and obnoxious to all our ideas of justice. Russell, his young co-editor, disagreed. Through the pages of the Herald, Russell went to great lengths to defend this Bible truth.
Unpleasant though it be, I feel it necessary to take exception to an article by my brother on this subject. I make the objection not from a spirit of controversy.
See, just guys like seeing other guys publishing papers and being like, I disagree with this paper that this other guy published. Like nowadays, it would just be a Reddit discussion. You know, it would just like there wouldn't be a religion because it would just be a Reddit discussion of just a couple of nerds in their basements, which with probably like more money than me, just talking about Lord of the Rings or whatever. Like in like unlike Reddit, like now like this guy Charles Taze Russell wouldn't have been a cult creator. He would have been a Redditor. He would have been a boring Redditor, like your average Redditor at that.
Controversy, but because I believe the doctrine assailed in that article to be one of the most important teachings of God's Word. Jesus Christ, by the grace of God, tasted death for every man.
In the Herald, Barber fired back.
I tell you, such a theology is false, and such justice and abhorrence.
Redditor energy. Come on. Am I not being vindicated? Am I not being proved right? Like right now, like these guys are Redditors. These guys are Redditors when the time of Reddit exists. You guys think like Reddit is bad or whatever because of like the misogyny and like or you know the capitalist anarchy over there. No, it's great because now we don't get religions. We just get Reddit threads, and then people forget about that shit. Like people get it out of the system, and then they don't make a religion out of it.
To the principle of right and wrong.
Dismayed by Barber's refusal to accept this scriptural teaching, Russell asked him privately either to resign or to sell his share of the paper.
While I still feel that you are a brother in Christ, the points of variance seem to me to be so fundamental and important that full fellowship no longer obtains between you and me. I feel that our relationship should cease.
After months of controversy, Russell's group withdrew from Barber's. Eventually, Russell severed all ties with Herald of the Morning.
What a fucking, oh my God. The air of superiority, like it's insane because this is bad acting and the air of superiority is still portrayed. Like, do you see this? Like, look at the way he shakes his head, like in superiority. I had never seen somebody shake his head in a more passive aggressive way. It's crazy. Just look at this. Look at this.
Eventually, Russell severed all.
Like even like raises an eyebrow, like, oh my God! Like this is bad acting. This is bad acting, and it's still here. That's crazy. That is how superior Jehovah's Witnesses feel. That like they are. They always feel like they're superior among like every other religion, and they feel like they're superior so much that even a terrible actor in a terrible Jehovah's Witness mock documentary can portray it accurately. It's crazy.
All ties with Herald of the Morning.
Brother Russell realized that he could not restore this man's wavering faith, in fact, lack of faith, and so he took it as the Lord's will that he begin to publish another magazine.
Strange, will you invite me to Jamaica to smoke up with you? That sounds delicious. That sounds amazing. Can I go?
Sorry, this is about Watchtower. We're about to be shown how the Watchtower was made. Which remember, nowadays they only produce like a couple of years or something.
Zion's Watchtower and Herald of Christ's Presence. First issue, July 1879.
In the same year that Thomas Edison.
I would absolutely love it. If I had the money, I would. Oh my God, I don't think I would leave because yeah.
Edison patented the
I have a really shitty one right now. It's so bad. It's really bad. I need to buy more.
Electric light. Charles Russell had gone from student to publisher. Thus dawned a new era of both literal and spiritual light.
What do you mean literal light? What? Do you not? What? Thus began a new era. of literal light? Did he also make light bulbs? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? What literal light? This, I mean, I know this is nitpicking, but come on, like, are Jehovah's Witnesses gonna be like the people, the kind of person that's like literally, like when it's not literal? Like this, I thought this was supposed to be a mock documentary, Jehovah's Witnesses.
From its first installment, Zion's Watchtower championed firm belief.
You didn't mention Thomas Edison because I was not paying attention.
In the ransom. Many who had associated with Nelson Barber sided with Russell on this issue. In 1879 and 1880, Russell and the readers of Zion's Watchtower formed 30 congregations. Those who joined them became known simply as the Bible students.
I guess they're not going to tell you that he got married and then separated. Like we're just not going to talk about this thing about his fucking marriage. Let me read you what Wikipedia says on his marriage, just very quickly, because apparently they're not going to talk about it. On March 13, 1879, Russell married Mary Frances Akeley. After a few months' acquaintance, the couple separated in 1879. Russell blamed the marriage breakup on disagreements over Maria Russell's insistence on a greater editorial role in Zion's Watchtower magazine, because she came up with a lot of the doctrine. A later court judgment noted that he had labeled the marriage a mistake 3 years before the dispute over her editorial ambitions had arisen. Maria Russell filed a suit for a legal separation in the Court of Common Pleas at Pittsburgh in June 1903. In 1906, she filed for divorce under a claim of mental cruelty. She was granted a separation with alimony in 1908. Maria Russell died at the age of 88 in St. Petersburg, Florida on March 12, 1938. So yeah, this guy was married and then got separated and then made a religion where that was not like what he did, what was not allowed to happen. And obviously, since this is propaganda, we're not going to talk about this because we can only portray Russell as somebody who can only do good.
People who love the truth, they want to have answers to questions. Who is God? Why are we here? Where are we going? And they're disillusioned by what they see in the churches. And so this.
Oh wow, this is a third appearance of the governing body member. I didn't know that we were gonna have this guy who's dead now. Like, all right, I guess he was like he still got a little bit of that clout that they were chasing after, even if he died like a couple of years after.
Searching, and so they found something.
Next, Russell and other dedicated Christians established a nonprofit Bible society to enable them to give wider distribution to Bible literature in various languages.
By selling Bibles, right? By selling Bibles?
From the very beginning, it was agreed there would never be any begging or petitioning for money.
Yeah, they only sold books. They only sold books, right? They only sold books. You're going to say it, right? This is the moment to say it. Let's see if they say it.
Be advanced through voluntary donations. With the annual commemoration of Christ's death came opportunities to hold large.
That's it. It was supposed to be funded with voluntary donations. Not with the selling of the Bibles and the books that they sold. Like, people could donate whatever they wanted to in the meetings, but the point of the meetings were to sell the books and to talk about the books. It was like a big book club. Like, that's the point. And to be part of the book club, you have to have the book, obviously, because otherwise, how are you gonna read the book? Like, that's the point of the meetings. The point of the meetings back then were to discuss the books that Russell came up with and the magazines and all of that stuff that you obviously had to buy. And obviously, when you went over there, you could give like a donation that you wanted, but it's insane to me that the Jehovah's Witnesses are like allergic for some reason to mentioning any kind of mention of them selling books before, even though they stopped selling books as recently as 1990. So probably like half of Jehovah's Witnesses still remember when they sold books. It's insane. It's this huge gaslighting project that the Jehovah's Witnesses have embarked on that I don't know why they do it. Like I don't understand it. Why do they gain from it? It's just I don't understand. I don't understand it. I don't get it. I would love for you guys, if you have any ideas in the comments. I've been thinking about this stuff like for a long time. I don't understand why they are so allergic to admitting that they used to sell books, when most Jehovah's Witnesses will remember when they used to sell books. It's insane. Why are they not mentioning this? I don't know.
Large conventions. In time, these were held regularly. Christian baptism was customary.
As Drench is pointing out in the comments, did those men all have beards? Are beards scriptural? Yes, they were scriptural back then, but then, you know, with the Bible update from Rutherford, they became unscriptural. You know how the Bible is always updating its biblical standing. So yeah, he was good for having a beard, but now you're good by not having a beard.
The Bible students sought to adhere to the scriptural command to not forsake the assembling of themselves together.
Okay, we have a good comment here. They don't mention it because they don't just want to say it. It looks bad, so might as well just not say it. But why does it look bad though? Because I would say that selling books is fine. It's only bad if you recognize that it was kind of like a multi-level marketing scheme where you had to like look for other people to buy the books, and it feels like they're ashamed of it. And by being ashamed of it, it feels like an acknowledgement that was inappropriate almost. So, but obviously they can't say that it wasn't appropriate, so they rather just not mention it. I don't know. Like it's a good theory. I think we're working on a good theory right now.
Another arrangement intended to encourage the small but growing number of Bible students came in 1894. Traveling representatives, called pilgrims, were dispatched to conduct meetings and to assist these fledgling congregations. About that time, Russell began to publish books containing the results of his biblical research, eventually writing 6 volumes.
That he sold!
These books came to be known as Studies in the Scriptures. As people read these books, they were moved to share with others what they...
Look, it's crazy. They'll even show you images of the colporteurs, which I've never pronounced correctly, which is them selling the books. They will even go as far as to show it to you. It's right here. They're selling the books, but they hope that you don't see it. They hope that in most Jehovah's Witnesses will never see it. They hope that they don't see that they used to sell books. These people were selling books. That's what they're picture doing right now. It's crazy that they're like, yeah, so that's how they were distributed.
Learn.
Obviously, people that were honest-hearted could hear the ring of truth. They just saw that this is the truth, and it was quite different from what other...
Oh, another governing body member. Another governing body member. And what he's saying is stupid as fuck. Because what he's saying is that studies in the scriptures resonated with people that believed in the truth. So why is it that we don't have studies in the scriptures as Jehovah's Witnesses anymore? Because studies in the scriptures was a lot of it was based in like pyramidology and a lot of that stuff that Jehovah's Witnesses plain don't believe in anymore, and even have acknowledged that is like a demonic spirit and shit. So Jehovah's Witnesses love to talk about out of both ends, saying, "Oh, this was always the truth," but then our truth right now is like the best that the truth has ever been. But back then that was the best the truth had ever been then. So it was good for them to believe things that we don't believe in anymore. That's the kind of like the conciliation you have to do in your brain when you're a Jehovah's Witness.
Christian denominations were teaching. the impact of these volumes on the people was that really some immediately changed things in their lives.
The Bible students were putting into practice what they were learning from the scriptures.
Come on.
Whoa, oh, wait. Do we see it? Do we see it? There you go. Pyramidology. You see it right here. This is pyramidology. This is the pyramids. This is the chart that Charles Taylor Russell used like to back up like his doctrine with pyramidology. Yeah. There you go. I'm pretty sure it's the divine chart of the ages. Thank you very much. I didn't, as I said in the beginning of the live stream, I'm not an expert on Jehovah's Witness history. I'm still trying to learn, but even I could identify this. This is crazy. They're showing you an image of pyramidology right here. And they're hoping that most Jehovah's Witnesses will not see it. Like, I was going to say they're hoping that most Jehovah's Witnesses will not see it. They won't see it. They know their Jehovah's Witnesses will not see this plain image of pyramidology. This is what the truth was back then. Something that is stupid. Like, nobody believes that shit anymore. Like, not even Jehovah's Witnesses. Like, nobody believes that shit anymore. And yet, you're shown this, and you have Garrett Lush saying, "Oh, this was the truth. This was the truth back then." So obviously they resonated with people looking for the truth when it wasn't the truth. It was a lie. It was pyramidology. Yeah, exactly. Jehovah's Witnesses believe that the truth changes. So this was the truth back then until they got revealed better truth. And then that was the truth, which is just an inherently stupid thing that you have to believe when you're a Jehovah's Witness.
In 1881, the article Wanted 1,000 Preachers invited readers of Zion's Watchtower to distribute Bible literature publicly. Some full-time preachers, called colporteurs, preached from house to house, bringing the message directly to people's homes.
You lying my. Hold on. Let's just, I'm even going to put up the joint for this. Let's look this up. What is a colporteur? A colporteur is a peddler of books. Like, we don't have this word now because this is like, however, the guys that used to light up the lights on the street with a stick were called. Like, we don't have that shit anymore. Like, the civilization has advanced past it. We don't have people selling you books door to door, right? But when you did back in like the 1900s, you had colporteurs. And what were colporteurs? Colporteurs were a peddler of books, newspapers, and similar literature. Someone employed by a religious society to distribute Bibles and other religious tracts. These people were peddlers. They sold the books that they were trying to give out. They weren't just distributing it freely, as they apparently wanna make you believe in this documentary. You can actually see, this is insane. You can actually see, like, this is when Jehovah's Witnesses started to use, well, the Bible students started using it over here, and then we just don't use it nowadays because it's just it has become a forgotten term. So that's how Jehovah's Witnesses lie to modern Jehovah's Witnesses and gaslight Jehovah's Witnesses with this theology by rewriting their history and pretending that they never asked for donations, just like they don't ask for donations right now, because apparently that's a big thing right now. Apparently, what's better right now is to ask for donations directly to the followers instead of asking for donations in exchange for books that you could read and that could at least like inform you in like bad doctrine. It's just I don't understand the logic of that. It's crazy to me that one thing is good and the other thing is bad.
The July 1881 Watchtower reminded readers that all true Christians have a responsibility to preach.
This is true. They literally said that Colporteur's job was not to preach, but to sell books. I'll put a reference for it. I've seen this reference before, so I know that I know this. But if you have the reference, I'll put it on stream. But yeah, Russell said that like Colporteur's job was not to preach; it was to sell books. That was their main job. So it's just the fact that they ignore it. It's a lie. It's deceptive. It's deceptive at least. It's not truthful. It's the way that Jehovah's Witnesses lie to other Jehovah's Witnesses.
They knew this was the truth, and they were telling people about it. Like every individual witness today knows he has the truth, and he has to tell people around him, and that's what it amounts to.
No, it was no. You lying fuck. No, it was a job. People did it for a living, because when you were a colporteur, half of the half of the thing that the book that you sold was for you. Like half of the money that you got was for you. You got like 50% off with the, I don't know if that was already maybe I'm thinking of Rutherford, but colporteurs made money out of it. So they started selling these books because they made money out of the books that they sold. It was a business for everybody involved. Jesus Christ. Yeah, half of the money was for the seller. I'm not sure when that was implemented, but I am almost, because again, I don't know everything about the Jehovah's Witness history, so I don't want to say something that's wrong. But at some point at least, half of the money was for the seller, half of the money were for the colporteurs, and that was all the way up to 1990. That was the point of being a pioneer, that you got 50% off, so you get to keep half of it. So yeah, this is again just rewriting history and just gaslighting people into thinking that the Jehovah's Witnesses were the way Jehovah's Witnesses were in 2010, because in 2010 they were still distributing publications door to door, and now they weren't even asking for donations. It was right before they started showing videos, so it was just gaslighting Jehovah's Witnesses into believing something that they don't even believe in anymore. It's crazy.
In 1899, Zion's Watchtower proposed a new method of preaching, handing publications to people after they left church on Sunday.
It really was.
At one stage, Russell endeavored to talk to the religious leaders. He could see then that there wasn't a chance to help modify those church systems, but rather it was more important to approach individuals on an individual basis and give them the opportunity. You can imagine the reaction, the feelings of those that would come out. They've gone to an established church or religion. They've seen
the recreation are not of the books. They are avoiding showing the books because the tracts were free. The tracts were free. You didn't have to ask money for the tracts, which is why the tracts were not like a part of the thing that you delivered at the end of the month, because the tracts were free. It was just to attract people to the religion. The tracts put the tract in a tract thing. That joke worked better in my head. So if you see it, they're not giving books. They're not selling books, because otherwise they don't have to portray them selling books. They're just having them like just give away tracts because they know that those are the things that they give away.
But the idea.
Where were we? There we go. See? Well, whatever.
Now, this affected the money that was coming into many churches, because once people saw the truth and they saw that they'd been taught falsehood, it was only logical then that they would withdraw and would not give their support to religious institutions that were teaching falsehood.
In 1903, Pittsburgh's Carnegie Hall became the scene of a 6-day debate. E.L. Eaton, pastor of a Methodist Episcopal church and representing an alliance of Protestant clergymen, had one aim: to destroy Russell's influence, particularly with regard to his teachings about the condition of the dead.
They really wanted to expose Russell as a man who was ignorant of the Bible and a fraud who wasn't qualified to get on a platform and preach about Bible subjects. Russell really did a very good job of presenting his arguments and establishing Bible truth, showing he was very qualified to deal with Scripture.
But that man is a soul.
People had a chance not only to see the contrast between the two, but had a chance to see that Bible truths were clear on many of those points. It was reported that one clergyman who had been there to support Eaton came up to Russell afterward and said, "I'm glad to see you turn the hose on hell and put the fire out."
The local newspaper published a full account.
I remember to unmute. It was muted, but I remember to unmute it. It's not because of the joint. Imagine if someone challenged to a debate to fucking Stephen Lett right now. Imagine. Oh my God, they would never do it. They would never do it because Jehovah's Witnesses don't even know their own theology. They don't know it, because if they knew it, they wouldn't be Jehovah's Witnesses. They would be like me.
Count of each debate the following day.
And then the brothers got the idea, why not have Brother Russell have a sermon printed each week in the newspapers simultaneously? And they in turn would telegraph the sermon out to all the newspapers in the United States, Canada, and even parts of Europe.
Russell's sermons could be found in 2,000 newspapers, reaching 15 million readers. The message was spreading quickly, but the Bible students were determined that it should penetrate to all corners of the earth. To that end, Russell prepared an even more intensive campaign. Up to 1908, the work had been directed from Russell's hometown, now a part of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. But to accomplish a more extensive international work, the headquarters, known as the Bible House, were far too small. In 1908, Russell dispatched J.F. Rutherford and others to New York City to secure more suitable quarters. The place dispatched.
This guy has oh my God. I swear to God, like once you know who he was, every time you see him, you kind of just want to punch him. He was the guy who kind of radicalized the Jehovah's Witness religion, which I don't think we're going to get into. But he was a bad person. I don't know. Every time that I see him, I just have like a guttural reaction. You know, I just don't like him. I just don't like him.
J.F.
Yeah, I do have the munchies, of course. Yeah, look at this double chin, like beautiful.
Rutherford and others to New York City to secure more suitable quarters. The place was named Bethel, meaning House of God. Those who lived there were called the Bethel family, each a volunteer, each working vigorously to shine the Bible's light into all the earth.
See, they're just recounting what was still a thing, like what is still a thing now. Oh, it was called Bethel, and people in it were called Bethelites, and they were volunteers making what? Making books to sell people. Oh, we're not gonna tell that bit. We're not gonna tell that bit. They were Bethelites. They were Bethelites. It's all like right now. Nothing has changed.
As far back as 1891, Russell and some associates had been traveling to other lands to help people spiritually.
Brothers, I would like to take our preaching worldwide.
One 17,000-mile journey took them to Europe, Asia, and Africa.
One of the results of that trip was this. There was a need seen for publications in various languages.
Not long after he would visit a place, you could see these groups of Bible students start to spring up. The work was starting to go international.
But during the years 1909 through 1912, Russell intensified his efforts, traveling across Europe, the Middle East, and eventually.
Are you kidding me? Jesus Christ. I was letting him speak right now. Why did he go there? You big lying idiots. Look, why did he go there? Why did he go? Why do you think Jehovah, like someone like Russell, went to the pyramid? Why, like, was it just to like do research on what? Do research. Oh my God. Jehovah's Witnesses lie so much about their own history. That's why learning about history is just so hard, because not only are Jehovah's Witnesses like very unreliable narrators about their own history, but they are extremely boring. So historians don't even care about Jehovah's Witnesses. It's hard to learn about this shit. But there was a reason why he went to the pyramids, and it wasn't just to preach to people in Egypt. Okay. Jehovah's Witnesses are not big in Egypt. They never have been. They never will be. He went there for the pyramids. It's insane. Yeah, that's why he went there, because it was a high destination in the 1800s. You know it. You know, it was all the hype. Everyone was like, instead of going to Coachella, like all of the cult leaders just went to the pyramids.
And eventually around the world. His travels enabled him to observe millions of people and to see firsthand what it would really mean to let the light of truth shine into all the earth. By 1914, there were 5,000 Bible students preaching in 68 lands. The world's population was approaching 2 billion. Was there a way to reach more people in less time? New technologies had opened up a possibility.
The fourth photodrama of
let me just
creation
check.
is presented
Yeah.
by the...
So this is a photodrama of creation. And you can see that the white people are seated over here in the front, which is accurate because it was segregated. Even though things weren't that segregated back then, Russell was like, look, white folks just feel uncomfortable sitting next to black people, which is why black people, we just put them in the back and then just in the bad seats, you know, and white people would put them in the best seats because we don't want to we don't want to make any racist uncomfortable. Like we are Jehovah's Witnesses. We are the truth. So this, at least, you know, they're accurate. They don't show a black person here. So, you know, this is accurate. This is pretty accurate. That being said, I think it would be a lot of fun to react to the photodrama of creation. Let me know if you guys think that's a good idea. I've been thinking maybe if I ever hit like 10,000 viewers, like I'll just do like a huge marathon, just watching the whole photodrama of creation, because it's a long thing. It's a long thing. You can find it. It's out there, but it's a long thing. And you know, let me know if you guys would like to see that, because I don't even know how to watch it. Like, do I make videos about it, or do I just live stream like for a whole day, or I don't know. Let me know if you guys think it's interesting, because the photodrama of creation has a lot of interesting things that Jehovah's Witnesses believe now, and the Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe now. So it's interesting for a lot of reasons.
Creation is presented by the IBSA, the International Bible Students Association.
There you go. Like over here, you can't see them. You can't see them, but these are the black people over here. These are the black people. Like the white people, we saw them. But if there was like a front shot over here, like these are the black people. That's why you didn't see them at the beginning.
International Bible Students Association. Its aim is public instruction along religio-scientific lines and in defense of the Bible as the inspired Word of God.
The Bible students did something that had never been done before. By synchronizing slides and film.
The governing body still has the same cadence. Look, guys, I wanted to do this live stream because I'm working on a couple of videos that I feel they are the hardest videos that I've ever worked on, and probably like the most important videos that I can put out. Not that they're important, they're just the most important videos that I can put. So emphasis on I. And it's all about cult indoctrination and how abusive cult indoctrination is. And it's just a wide thing. I've had to research a lot. I've been reading a lot. And one of the things that I've noticed is that this cadence is the same all throughout Jehovah's Witness history, but it's not just the same all throughout Jehovah's Witness history. It's the same throughout many cults. I've been reading and researching a lot of La Luz del Mundo, which is a cult over here in Mexico, and I've been listening to their sermons and shit. The cadence is the same. There's something about the cadence and the hypnotic way that the cadence goes that it just there's something there. There's something there, and I don't think that anybody in psychology has noticed before, because cult indoctrination is so unnoticed in psychology. So yeah, thank you for noticing it, because yeah, it is it's a good thing that you noticed, because otherwise I would be like, I am crazy. Like, how could I notice it and nobody else has noticed it? But yeah, it is the same one.
Footage with music and dialogue, they produced an 8-hour audio-visual presentation. The idea was to show the development of God's purpose from the beginning of creation.
Wait. There you go. I mean, they're showing us the photodrama of creation. They're showing us the photodrama of creation. Do you see anything wrong with this? Like, this is the first shot, the first slide of the photodrama of creation. Earth's 7 creative days are seen by the Almighty. 7 times 7,000 is 49,000 years. So the earth was created in 49,000 years. And this is theology that Jehovah's Witnesses never actually got rid of, which is why Jehovah's Witnesses, some Jehovah's Witnesses, will say that the earth, and you'll even find it in some publications, they will tell you that the earth is thousands of years old, which is like saying that I don't know, that a stadium is like thousands of millimeters long. Like, it's just, yeah, it's more than thousands, you know. So the very first one, we already have something that most people like don't believe in today, and Jehovah's Witnesses at least don't openly believe in today.
Purpose from the beginning.
And oh yeah, of course, don't miss the all-seeing eye on the top of the slide, of course, because, you know, pyramids. I didn't want to mention it because obviously, like, this is far more obvious. Like, the creative days thing is far more obvious than the eye, and with the eye would be a little. I feel like some Jehovah's Witnesses would be like, oh no, you're speculating on that. But yeah, good catch.
Beginning of creation to the millennial reign of Christ. It was shown in 2-hour segments over 4 nights. The first part dealt with each of the creative days.
What? Is that Mexico? Did you see that shit?
The first part dealt with each of the.
That is supposed to be the globe. Look at that. That is supposed to be Mexico over here, and then this is like South America over here. That is. How did they do this? Did they make like a miniature? That is crazy.
Creative days.
Yeah, exactly. Let there be light, but no sun yet. Like, there was light first and then sun, obviously. Oh, we're gonna let's fast forward. We're gonna get canceled for this. We're showing boobs on stream.
Flood of Noah's day.
Yeah, their art was better. Their art has only become more boring and corporate throughout the decades. And right now, it's undistinguishable from like your modern corporate art. But yeah, their art before was, I feel like their art was by people that actually believed like passionately in this shit. And now it's just people that don't even know about their own doctrine. So their art is not as good. Their art is just became more like a tool and less of an expression of their worship.
And the faith of Abraham. Part 2 showed scenes of God's dealings with ancient Israel. From the Exodus through the reign of the Judean kings. The third segment dealt with the destruction of Solomon's temple and messianic prophecies and their fulfillment.
Exactly. I feel like they're just 2 steps away from like the corporate art of like this like soulless. Let me just show it to you. Like this is how Jehovah's Witnesses like. This is how Jehovah's Witnesses art is gonna look like in a decade from now. Like just like this. It's just gonna look like this. This is where Jehovah's Witnesses are going right now. It's just, oh my God, it's so boring.
In part 4, viewers saw the story of the spread of Christianity. the persecution that resulted.
They didn't have a Jehovah's Witness theater, simply, or do they also have a Jehovah's Witness theater? I know that they have it in the LDS Church. They didn't have, as far as I know, and again, I don't know that much about Jehovah's Witness history, but as far as I know, Russell showed this in like modern cinemas at the time. Like it was just like he just got cinemas, and now they just have screens in the meeting, so they can portray like the videos. And sometimes, like in some assembly halls, they have like giant screens, but I wouldn't call them like Jehovah's Witness theaters necessarily. It's just like screens for indoctrination. For indoctrination needs, that's it.
And the huge populations yet to be reached with the kingdom message. Showings were organized so that 80 cities could be served each day. The Bible students themselves paid all expenses needed to rent suitable theaters.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
The photodrama of creation was a technical feat previously unmade.
That's crazy. Like the thing we were talking about, like for the first time, I say something and then it becomes relevant. Like it's a relevant thing. Like they talk about something relevant in their propaganda. That's crazy.
Matched. It would be another decade before a full-length commercial film would combine music, synchronized dialogue, and color footage. In just 1 year.
This was a technical marvel. Like this is true. You can actually see back then, like they didn't have color film. Like they hadn't developed it. So the way that they did it, as far as I know, I'm an idiot. I can be wrong, right? But as far as I know, the way that they did it was that they individually painted each film. Because they developed it on film, and it's what you would show. So they would individually paint them, so as to add the colors, and that's why the colors, as you see over here, they're not perfect. You see they have like some imperfections right here. You see it more over here, like how the colors change. You can look at the red over here, and you can see how the color changes.
And color footage.
It's changing because it's not recorded. It's painted on top of it. So yeah, it was a marvel. This is probably the most revolutionary thing Jehovah's Witnesses have ever done. I think I'd have to think about it, but I think that's probably accurate.
In just 1 year, 9 million people around the earth had seen the photodrama of creation.
Okay, fine. We're gonna watch it. I don't know when we're gonna watch it. We're gonna watch it on a live stream. I'm sold. Jehovah's Witnesses sold me on it. We're gonna watch the live stream. I don't know when, but I promise we're gonna watch the live stream soon. We're gonna watch the photodrama of creation in a live stream soon, because yeah, I kind of want to watch it now.
And many who saw it were convinced that they had discovered the path of increasing light.
It's right, people.
In 1876,
so far this is going in far more detail than I would have expected, especially because it's part 1 of 2. So, like, this is detailed. It's rewriting a lot of history, but it's detailed while doing it.
6. Russell had written an article in Bible Examiner entitled "Gentile Times, When Do They End?" in which he stated that the 7 times will end in 1914. Russell concluded, on the basis of the tree dream recorded in Daniel chapter 4, that the dynasty that began with King David would be restored 2,520 years after its overthrow.
Isn't the whole point of the reinterpretation of the tree Can't they only reinterpret it if they go through the types and anti-types kind of thing? Again, I have to research. This is why I don't talk a lot about, like, I was hesitant to make this video because I knew that I was going to show like that I'm not going to know about a lot of things, but I'm pretty sure. Usually I do a lot more research when I say these things, but I'm pretty sure you can only get there if you believe in like a type anti-type kind of thing, right? I'd have to research it, but yeah, like this is just misinterpretation of the Bible. You can't get to this interpretation with current Jehovah's Witness doctrine.
During those years, no Davidic.
That is like the worst. Let's watch that again. That is the worst CGI I've ever seen. Look at it. Like, it's just, it even like morphs into the ground.
Bro.
It morphs into the ground. Like, just Jesus.
During those years, no Davidic king would rule. The Bible students refer to that period as the Gentile times. What would happen at the end of those years? They read.
Ooh, are they gonna say that at the end of 1914, like that was the first end times prediction? Is that what we're going after? I somehow doubt it.
That since Jesus is the only one qualified to assume the throne of David, then Christ himself would begin ruling in 1914.
Yeah, that's what I think.
What would that mean for the earth? Reasoning on Daniel chapter 2 and Matthew chapter 24, the Bible students preached that a time of global anarchy would come, which would culminate in the end of the system of things. They believed.
They said it. They're gonna. No, Siri, I didn't. No, I was talking to her. No, Siri. Siri, shut the fuck up. How do I? Okay, thank you, Siri. Okay, they just mentioned it. They just said that they believed that in 1914, they were gonna the world was gonna decay into unexistence, and then the end would come. They said, like, now they said it in a way where modern Jehovah's Witnesses may think, so they thought that 1914 was the beginning of the end of the times. But that's not what the narrator said. What the narrator said was what Jehovah's Witnesses preached. Let's just listen to that again, because I didn't think that they were going to outright say this.
2 in Matthew chapter 24, the Bible students preached that a time of global anarchy would come, which would culminate in the end of the system of things.
I mean, let's go again, I guess, because let's make sure.
They reasoned that since Jesus is the only one qualified to assume the throne of David, then Christ himself would begin ruling in 1914.
1914.
What would that mean for the earth? Reasoning on Daniel chapter 2 and Matthew chapter 24, the Bible students preached that a time of global anarchy would come, which would culminate in the end of the system of things. They believe
it's accurate. It's accurate, and yet said in a way that modern Jehovah's Witnesses can still interpret it to the way that it's interpreted right now. That's sneaky as fuck. That I did not expect this. This is sneakier than I ever expected for a Jehovah's Witness. This is sleek even for Jehovah's Witnesses, because Jehovah's Witnesses are usually blunt with this. This is kind of sleek. It's a cult, but I gotta give it to them in this one.
Believe that around that time the congregation would be taken to heaven.
They realized that 1914 had a significance. It meant the end of the Gentile times. Now, at that time, they felt that perhaps the work would be finished and they would go home, as it were.
That's crazy. Jeffrey Jackson just admitted that a lot of them, meaning all of them, everyone who was listening to the doctrine, believed that by 1914, it was just going to be over. It's just the end of time. It was the end of times. I can assure you, I can assure you, most Jehovah's Witnesses will not know about this. So this is crazy, because this is a great find for when you're trying to wake up a Jehovah's Witness, if they care about like this kind of thing, like the history and how they're always accurate. You can point them out to this. No, they're not. Like, look at their own stuff. Like, you don't have to point them out to JW Facts. You can just point them out to Jehovah's Witnesses Faith in Action Part 1, Out of Darkness, minute 41. It's right there. It's right there. They believed in something that was wrong. That's what they believed. They believed that 1914 was going to be the end of times. I'm working again. I'm working on several videos, okay? But I'm working on another video about the Jehovah's Witnesses end times prediction, and 1914 was one of them. Was arguably the first one. So yeah, Jehovah's Witnesses don't have the worst track record at predicting the end, which is why you should never trust them, because and you can see it right here in this video. It's insane.
So they were looking forward to a time of reward.
They did understand that there was a significant.
They were always old. All of them were always old. They were born like this. They were born with gray hairs, I'm pretty sure.
To the year. Primarily, they thought that 1914 would
Exactly.
just be the start of the judgment coming upon the world, or Armageddon.
Yet people in general were anticipating a different sort of future.
Yes.
Many who wrote memoirs about the summer.
You fucking idiot. They're like, people, they felt that in 1914, the end of times was going to come. Yet people back then were believed that a different kind of future awaited. You meant like the future that actually happened, you idiot? Like, what other kind of future? Like, the reality? Like, are you talking about reality? Oh my God.
Of 1914 described it as one of exceptional tranquility, full of hope and promise. Some analysts felt that in 1914, conditions were better than ever for achieving world peace.
Which analyst? Show me one. Just one analyst. Which analyst? Show me one. Like, was it really better in 1914? Like before 1914, before civil rights were a thing, and women rights were a thing, and modern medicine was a thing. Like, was that a better time? Was that a better time? Like, what are your sources? Like, I'm not saying that's impossible. I'm an idiot. I don't know about history. I'm just saying, if you have to claim that, like, cite your sources, bitch. Come on.
What the Bible students had been preaching about global anarchy seemed highly unlikely. But the Bible students counted the days and continued working. Then on June 28th, 1914, Austria-Hungary's crown prince and his wife were murdered. His assassin fired the shots that began the bloodiest war mankind had yet experienced.
This is the only claim to fame that Jehovah's Witnesses have, and that they still will claim to today. They claim that they predicted World War I because Rutherford believed that the end of the world would come in 1914. And the end of the world didn't come, but a World War I came. So he was kind of correct. If you think about it, the end of the world kind of did come because a lot of people died. So I mean, don't think about it. Think about it like this. He predicted that something bad would happen. So he if you round up several times, he was mostly right. That's how Jehovah's Witnesses would argue this. Exactly. Their own
notions of tranquility were shattered as nation after nation became enmeshed in the Great War. These and other historical events matched what Jesus said would characterize the conclusion of the system of things.
When World War I broke out in July, they felt vindicated, and it strengthened their faith in the Bible and in Jehovah's prophetic word, but also it enhanced their trust that Jehovah was using.
I can't let them get away with it. Did you see this shit? They're like, oh, 1914 came, and obviously the Bible says about earthquakes. In 1914, World War One, it's like the earthquake of the world, if you think about it, because it was a big war. So it was like an earthquake. So if you round up several times, we're mostly correct. We swear to God, we're mostly correct.
When World War I broke out in July, they felt vindicated, and it strengthened their faith in the Bible and in Jehovah's prophetic word, but also it enhanced.
Yeah, exactly. War hadn't even been tried before 1914. War was like it. We were peaceful before 1914. There had never been war ever in 1914. 1914 is when war was invented. Jesus.
Hence their trust that Jehovah was using Brother Russell and his friends to explain truth to others.
At Brooklyn Bethel on October 2nd, 1914, Charles Russell made a monumental announcement.
The Gentile times have ended. Their kings have had their day.
Expectations were still running high. Many of the Bible students were hoping for an immediate heavenly reward.
And I might just say, my mother, she was ready to sell up everything in the home because she thought that the end was coming in 1940. And her feelings were that of a lot of the brothers back there.
Despite such expectations, the distressing world conditions that erupted in 1914 would not mean that the Bible students' job was done. Russell felt sure that a great work remained. He wrote,
We should lose no time dreaming that the door is shut. There are people who are seeking the truth, people who are sitting in darkness. The Watchtower, February 15th, 1915.
Yet Russell would not personally reach those people. In 1916, in the course of a preaching tour, he died at the age of 64.
After preaching the end of the world and failing.
He had spent his entire fortune preaching the Bible's message.
This is the bullshit that Jehovah's Witnesses would sell you. He spent his entire fortune on this. Yeah, he spent his entire fortune on the Watchtower organization that he made money out of. Yes, he did. That's how he invested his fortune. He invested his fortune in a vast publishing company so he could sell whatever idiotic books he had to without an editor, so he could make a lot of money while doing it. Like, yes, that's how he spent his fortune. It's not like he died poor. He was the owner of that gigantic publishing company at the time. Like, it was already gigantic. It was bigger than the publishing company that they have right now. So, oh my God, it just it's insane the ways that Jehovah's Witnesses will try to lie to you.
Whereas the majority of the Bible students kept studying the Bible and sharing its message, others simply could not overcome their disappointments. Disappointment that 1914 did not fulfill all their expectations.
Who placed those expectations on them, narrator? Who placed those? Why did they have those expectations? Who told them that shit? Who told them that shit, I wonder? Why did they have those expectations, I wonder? Why did they blame the Russell for the expectations that they have? Could it be because that's where the expectations originated? I mean, it only makes all of the logic in the world and makes sense once you look at the history. Like every other narcissist, this is a narcissistic organization that will blame you for leaving for their mistakes. It's the cornerstone of any narcissist in any narcissistic organization. They will blame you for leaving because you found out that they were wrong, or that you found out that they were abusive or whatever. The fact that you left, that makes them a victim. And it's very apparent in this mockumentary.
Compounded by natural grief over Russell's death.
Well, it was a big shock because they were used to his taking the lead, and they figured he was going to take the lead until the Lord came and took them all to heaven. And they just didn't know what to do for a while. They were totally shocked as to how to carry on.
Why did they believe that?
Some would sever all association with the Bible students.
Those hats, though. Look at those hats. Oh, man. Look at those hats. Like, you got a top hat over here, and then what is this? Like, another top hat over here, and then there's bowler hats over here. It's just hats galore. Like, everyone has a hat. And then the women just have, like, a hats with, like, fucking flowers and shit. Ah, man. We got to bring hats back, everybody. Like, I love where fashion is right now. It's just not where it needs to be when it comes to hats, I'm pretty sure. Like, it's just the way I see it. It's the only thing that's missing in fashion right now, hats.
And attempt to draw others after them. What would happen to the Bible students? Would they disperse as if followers of Russell?
This is not a work of man. This is a work of Jehovah God. It's evident that Jehovah had already chosen this organization. And because of the faithfulness and the sincerity of the men who were behind it, it's obvious that Jehovah had already chosen this organization to get his work done. There were enough honest-hearted men hungering for the truth, desirous of doing the will of God, to prevent the organization from collapsing.
Rather than giving in to disappointment over what did not happen in 1914, the Bible students kept their minds open to the significance of what had taken place.
Oh my God, it infuriates me. It infuriates me. They're so abusive. Like, rather than being disappointed, but by the religion that lied to them, they decided that the religion that lied to them was still a good religion to follow, and that's why they were right. That's why we follow them right now. That's why we're showing them their photos, because they were. That's what you're supposed to do. Jesus.
The World War and its aftermath had become the world-shaking events proclaimed by Russell almost 40 years earlier. The Bible students were coming to the realization that Christ's presence began in 1914, and that the world's last days were underway.
This is how they patched it. They were like, you know how we told you that Jesus was going to come and was going to bring destruction in 1914? He came invisibly. He came, but it just, you know how there's like this verse in the Bible that says that no eye will miss like when Jesus comes. He came, but nobody noticed except us. We were right all along. That's how they rewrote it. That's, oh my God, that's insane.
2 months after Russell's death, Joseph Rutherford was appointed to oversee the work.
Yeah, he didn't take over in like this like abusive thing where he just appointed people that who were on it and then just forced the numbers and then kicked everyone out who didn't like him because he was completely not what Russell wanted. Russell wanted something more akin to the governing body. He didn't want one person to follow his to become the president, but he wasn't even thinking of him to become the interim president. But he just took over. So, but no, he was appointed. He was peacefully appointed by the group of people that he appointed for the job. It was all the work of Jehovah.
Rutherford had been a close associate of Russell, traveling with him and speaking in his defense.
He didn't even like him.
Like Russell, he believed that the good news had to be preached. He was dynamic and could not be intimidated. Yet not everyone appreciated these traits, even among the Bible students.
Yeah, I wonder what, like, see, they can't even lie convincingly because they're like, yeah, so when Rutherford took over, he made a few changes, and some people didn't like those changes, and even in Bethel. Anyway, we're not gonna go into why. Like he was Goodbye Apostate Ministry School. He was the very first apostate. He changed the religion. He was the first apostate. The only difference between him and me is that he had power in the Jehovah's Witness religion, and I don't. That's it. Well, and that he was an asshole as well. Like I try not to be an asshole. Like I'm not saying I'm a good person, but I'd like to think that even in my worst days, I'm a better person than this asshole.
He was an entirely different personality, brusque in manner, and he didn't fear to tread on anyone's toes.
Yeah, he asked everyone to shave their beard because people were still following Russell, and he was a very insecure, tiny little man who was like, if you have beards like Russell, then that means you support Russell. So if you want my support, yeah, you gotta shave that beard. So that's why Jehovah's Witnesses shaved at the time, and that's why even Jesus was shown as fully shaven at that time, at the Rutherford time, even though it's completely unhistorical, which is terrible for him because that would help him hide his double chin. Like, it was him like me. Like, was he just mad that he couldn't grow a beard? And he's like, he was just jealous that other people could grow beards to hide their double chins. And he's like, if I can't hide my double chins, nobody can. Like, I think it was part of that and part of the Russell thing, if I'm honest.
I think this had a tremendous test on the brothers because they were really worshipping the creature.
Fourth governing body member to show up so far. That's crazy.
More than the creator.
What, had he shown up before?
Rutherford directed that Russell's notes for a 7th volume of Studies in the Scriptures be compiled into a new book called The Finished Mystery.
This book was passed as like the last writings of Russell, but it was mostly just like it was a forgery made by fans of Russell. It is very different for many reasons that I can't back up right now because I haven't researched it. But what I know is that this volume was made by fans of Russell, and it was passed as something from Russell when it really wasn't. It was just, again, part of the takeover that Rutherford did.
On the day that the book was completed and he had a supply in his office, he arranged for the brothers to put one at each table place in the dining room. And so when the family came down to eat, each one had a copy of the book, The Finished Mystery. Some were quite curious about it and wondered what it was all about and enthused about it, but there was already a growing tension in the family because some of the responsible brothers sort of resented Brother Rutherford. Some of them had ambitions for themselves, so they used the occasion to bring accusations against Brother Rutherford.
Yeah, the guy who violently, not violently, but who just took over unilaterally, basically. Like, some people thought that he was going too far by publishing a book pretending that it was his predecessor's book when in fact was his. Some people were mad about it because they had aspirations for themselves. That's the story. Sure, that sounds about right.
For having gone ahead and published this without their permission and their knowledge. And the result was eventually about a 5-hour tirade against Brother Rutherford, where a number brought a lot of unjust accusations against him. Brother Macmillan tells that, well, that day they left the dining room and most of the food was uneaten and the family was very sad.
But in the community at large, people were taking note of the finished mystery.
They originally planned on a distribution of about less than 100,000, and within a short time, over 850,000 copies had to be printed.
The clergy hated the book. It exposed their unscriptural teachings and practices, and it publicly condemned them for their involvement in the World War.
Yeah, it publicly condemned them because it had like this piece that wasn't even written by Rutherford. So yeah, they hated them for multiple reasons, but I mean, not because it made them look ridiculous with their doctrine. Because again, what about their doctrine was ridiculous with this book? Like, can you show at least one thing that was clarified? No, they won't. They won't show you because they would just want to pretend that the church was just mad about the book because the book was so amazing for the time, and not because it was insulting for to the Catholic Church, and it had a plagiarized bit and all that stuff.
The clergy fought back. Using the heightened patriotism of wartime to their advantage, they falsely accused the Bible students of sedition, espionage, and treason, and they urged the U.S. government to halt their work. On May 8, 1918, Joseph Rutherford and 7 of his associates were arrested. On June 20th, they were convicted on 4 counts of sedition.
These, fun fact, these counts of sedition that they were accounted for are the same counts of sedition that Edward Snowden got. Am I wrong? Oh my God. I was so sure. And as soon as I said that, I doubted myself. I'm like, wait, is that for a different thing? I'm telling you, this is why I make videos, because I usually have this doubt, and then I look it up, and then I can make sure that I say something right, and I still get shit wrong sometimes. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it was espionage and treason. Yeah, that is correct. Let me just read you what Wikipedia has to say about it, because Jehovah's Witnesses won't tell you. In early May in 1918, U.S. Attorney General Thomas Watt Gregory condemned the Finnish mystery as one of the most dangerous examples of propaganda, a work written in extremely religious language and distributed in enormous numbers. Warrants were issued for the arrest of Rutherford and 7 other Watchtower directors who were charged under the 1917 Espionage Act, which attempting to cause insubordination, disloyalty, refusal of duty in the armed forces. I mean, this is true. The Jehovah's Witnesses refuse to their duty in the armed forces. That is correct. And obstructing the recruitment and enlistment service on the United States while at war. That's also correct. They are against recruitment and enlistment, and they punish Jehovah's Witnesses who feel like they want to do it. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying you shouldn't be punished for your decisions, and especially like if those decisions hurt the government is obviously going to fight back. On June 29, on June 21st, 7 of them, including Rutherford, were sentenced to 20 years imprisonment. Rutherford, hold on, where was he? Rutherford fears his opponents will gain control of the society in his absence, because he took over in a very controversial way. But on January 2nd, 1919, he learned that he had been re-elected president at the Pittsburgh Convention the day before, convincing him that God wanted him in the position. On 26 March 1919, the directors were released on bail after an appeal court ruled that they had been wrongly convicted. In May 1920, the government announced that all charges had been dropped. So yeah, he was briefly imprisoned for charges that were obvious. I mean, Jehovah's Witnesses are against enlisting. So yeah, I need to do more research on this, because there's a lot more Jews in this that I'm not I'm not fully versed on it to like get you on. But if this is something that you find interesting, believe me, there's a lot more. I'm just scratching the surface over here.
July 4th, 1918, Rutherford and his associates were transported to the federal penitentiary in Atlanta, Georgia. The sentence? 20 years in prison. George Fisher, Hugh McMillan, Robert Martin, Frederick Robeson, Joseph Rutherford, William Van Amberg.
I've been thinking a lot about doing merch for the channel. Would you guys buy a t-shirt with this? Because I feel like that's probably a good merch idea. Because I don't want it to just be like Caleb's face, like on the t-shirt. Because I mean, who cares about that? Like I want something cool. I think, yeah, he kind of looks like Homer Simpson over here. We can actually make him like a Homer Simpson very, very easily. But yeah, I mean, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like if I saw a t-shirt with this photo, I'd buy it. I don't know. It sounds something. Let me know in the comments if that's something you wanna get.
William Van Amberg, Clayton Woodworth, sentenced to 10 years in prison, Giovanni de Cecca.
It was quite a shock to them to be put in prison. Did they do something that they shouldn't have done? Was the Lord displeased with them, or was the Lord permitting it? They just didn't know.
The devil stirs up people to oppose us either directly or indirectly. Now, the charge of sedition has been one often used against Jehovah's people. This is just another ploy. Those brothers certainly were not going around trying to undermine the U.S. government.
On August 26, 1918, Brooklyn headquarters was shut down. Operations were moved back to Pittsburgh. In the minds of the clergy, the voice of the Bible students had been silenced. On November 11th, 1918, the World War ended.
This is true.
Prisoners of war were being released. Rutherford and his associates were not. It appeared that their opponents had succeeded. The Bible students circulated a petition for the release of the 8 men
You just need your signature right there.
and obtained 700,000 signatures. On March 12, 1919, Woodrow Wilson, President of the United States, conceded that the prison terms were excessive. On March 26th, all 8 men were released. The charges were later dropped.
But the Lord was preparing them for the future. It was going to be a battle with the political, religious, and commercial world, and Brother Rutherford was geared and trained for that after he got out.
Upon their release, the men were consumed with zeal. Within 6 months, headquarters was moved back to Brooklyn, and arrangements were made for a convention at Cedar Point, Ohio.
Wasn't the release of Rutherford and the subsequent convention supposed to be the fulfillment of Bible prophecy, of like revelations, of like the trumpets or something? I may be misremembering this, but I'm pretty sure they made this part of they made this event feature on the Bible retroactively.
It was here that they launched a companion magazine to the Watchtower called The Golden Age. Its purpose? To explain the meaning of world events and to inspire hope in the supreme remedy.
Rutherford and his associates had only just been released from prison. And then within a couple of months, they organized this tremendous convention and announced the release of a new magazine, The Golden Age.
Sorry, that's because it's about to be 420. So it's a little reminder. Look, it's a Casio watch, okay? It has to be stupid.
Now, that's something that really is unbelievable. You go from one situation where there's hardly anything happening. The next thing, it's just full speed ahead.
On September 8th, 1922, another convention was held at Cedar Point. Here, Rutherford gave what would become perhaps his most memorable speech.
Do you believe that the King of Glory has begun his reign? Yes! Then back to the field. The world must know that Jehovah is God.
Also, this is true. I like how there were definitely enough brothers with double chins they could have gotten to portray Rutherford, but they picked the jazzified version of Rutherford instead. Yep. Look at him. Where's the double chin, my dude? Come on. We've seen the double chin. That is his most distinguishable feature. Are we gonna just jazzify him and just remove his most distinguishable feature? Come on. Come on.
God, and that Jesus Christ is King of Kings and Lord of Lords. This is the day of all days.
Oh, God damn it! Wasn't this the one that it had like patriotic flags and shit, and that they don't have it, like they remove it now? I was gonna look it up, but it's fine.
This is the day of all days. Behold, the King reigns. You are his publicity agents. Therefore, advertise, advertise, advertise the king and his kingdom.
By selling books. By selling books, right?
And advertise they did.
Well, it must have been daunting for them to contemplate the world as their territory and a few thousand.
Speaking about double chins, guys, no. You don't understand. Stephen Lett. Oh, let me do this for a second. Stephen Lett. The character, like the person that he is, the persona that he is just a character that he puts on. Like the we warmly welcome you to Shade Out, like that like overdone thing. That's not something that he learned because he was with like deaf people or whatever. That is a specific persona that he has learned because that's how he likes to present himself in JW Broadcasting. And here we're going to see Stephen Lett without the persona, before the persona. It's crazy. I'm gonna put it from the beginning because it's probably like this is the biggest part of this. Stephen Lett pre Muppetification. That's insane.
It must have been daunting for them to contemplate the world as their territory and a few thousand harvest workers. So they knew Jehovah would help them. They knew others would join them. So they knew the work would expand.
You can imagine someone sitting there.
Isn't it kind of weird? Isn't it kind of weird to see Stephen Lett without the mannerisms and shit? Thank you so much. I need to get them done again because they're supposed to be mirrored, but I did them like a while ago. But yeah, advertise. It means slave for Watchtower for free. That is exactly right. And means slave for Watchtower selling their publications for free. Like again, they keep not saying it, so I have to keep saying it. They sold publications. That's how the whole thing worked up till 1990 when they had to change things because the shit changed, and then they had to change. They have to pay for taxes, and they were like, maybe if we don't charge a fixed amount, maybe we get away with not paying taxes. That is literally the only reason why it changed. But yeah, I doubt they mentioned this in this documentary.
And saying, how on earth would you ever get this done? And that would seem to be quite a sensible question. But those brothers weren't concerned with that. They had full faith in Jehovah.
Well, our focus at the time, in view of Brother Rutherford's talk, was that
another governing body member, one of the governing body members, the few governing body members, I'd say, who has been accused of a CSA case. It's pretty interesting.
We've got something to do, and we've got to finish a work that we've been entrusted with. And our focus was to get on with the job and fulfill our commission as his servants here on the earth.
Like some who had gone before them, these students of the Bible had the courage to walk away from false beliefs. Yet they were different in that they stuck together, and they refused to stop preaching, even in the face of serious opposition. Because of their endurance, they continued to know the profound joy of having emerged from darkness. Now, a huge work lay ahead of them. Their future would be one of increasing sacrifice and great accomplishment. But their faith that Christ had begun ruling, coupled with their appreciation for Jehovah's direction and backing, gave them the courage they would need to let the light of truth shine into all the earth.
Oh wow, they even got shit from the British Museum? See, like they have to do some research. Anyway, I like this more. I like this more than the JW broadcasting thing. So, anyway, what do you guys think? We're gonna watch the next one next week, next Saturday. Again, if Jehovah allows. So we're gonna watch it. But what do you guys think? I think it's a very interesting look at the Jehovah's Witness religion at a very specific time, at a very specific period in time, which is like the 2010s, which is when they were right before they were about to change their doctrine, and they were about to change their cult from this like corporate cult to more of a back to more of a personality cult. So let me know below what do you guys think. I think this was a really interesting look at the religion. It is filled with propaganda, but I feel we were able to see through a lot of it. So yeah, let me know guys below if you guys liked it, and please tune in or subscribe for the next one, so you know exactly at what time on Saturday, because I haven't decided that yet. So you know you're gonna have to subscribe if you want to know in advance. So thank you so much for joining me. I've been dealing with like some personal stuff, and it just, I don't know, it's just cool to just react to this stupid propaganda instead of having to like make a video about it, because I don't feel this deserves a video to look into it. Like it would be a very boring video, but I don't know, it's just fun to watch. So yeah, we're gonna watch this, and then we're gonna watch the photo drama of creation. I've decided, like we have to watch it. We're gonna have to divide it. Maybe I'll ask Jake from the Old Worldly channel to like join me on it, because at this point I'm pretty sure like that's the only XGW who I'm friends with who's still like around, because Harrison left. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thank you so much for watching it. Don't forget to subscribe, and goodbye, I guess.